So the proposed model looks like this. It's large and messy, but I'll walk you through it. In this demo relation encoder, we have two different RNNs. They are GRUs, for those of you who are interested. But it's just a gated recurrent neural network, where we use these two RNNs to encode each of the words in the demo relation. So C goes into the top one here, and C goes into the bottom one. And we get two vectors which are fed to this fully connected layer, and we get a vector output from that layer. Now we encode the query word, which would be eat here, using the top RNN here, and we get a vector representation for that one. Now we feed both those vectors into a fully connected layer and get one vector which would be able to have information about all three words. Now this depends on how you train it, of course. But there is this information, and if you train it correctly, that should be able to happen. Now, this vector is used by the decoder RNN, and the decoder RNN outputs something. In the beginning, without training, it would be random garbage. And then you would measure the similarity between this garbage and the correct output, and you would update all the weights, and the network would start to perform better and better. While doing this decoding, of course, we also have this attention mechanism. So the decoder gets information from a specific point in the query RNN and can look at certain characters that it learns are useful for the task. Right, and also perhaps some of you have noticed that the top line here of layers, that's more or less exactly a neural machine translation model with the attention mechanism. So if you just ignore this bottom part with the demo relation, this is a translation model that can translate from one word to another. Or it can actually translate most things if you train it for it. So, some example outputs from the trained model. We can see that having the transition from Y to IE in English is not a problem for the system to see that this is the third person singular, and it is it? It's a verb. This identifies a verb. Bottleneck, can that be a verb? That's a funny example. I haven't noticed that. Perhaps that's an issue with the data set. But it also can learn spelling things like prigged should have two G's without there being an extra G in the input anywhere. So it finds out this from patterns in the words and learns to do so correctly. It has some problems with non-regular verbs. Right, so in Professor Schitz's slides, we saw that this had more than 95% accuracy in English, which it does. In these slides, I included the Levenshtein distance, which is a measure of similarity between the output and the correct output. And it counts edits. So if you have an extra character that needs to be removed, that's one edit. If you have to change one character, that's one edit. And if you have to add a character, that's one edit. So in English, we have less than 0.1 such characters wrong in the output. In Finnish, we have a little more than 0.2. In German, a little less than 0.2. And in Russian, which has a little bit more complex morphology, I've been told. I don't speak Russian, unfortunately. We have the worst score of about 0.4, 0.45 perhaps. And Swedish, we get a little less than 0.2. So lower is better here. And the baseline here cannot generalize in the way that we do. It's an algorithm presented by Lepage in 1998, I think, which can find transformations in the demo relation but it can then only paste these over to the target word. So it can find out what is the suffix of a word, if there's a suffix change, prefix change, or an infix change, and it can do all these transformations to the target word. But it would not be able to find out the Y to IE in English and other more complex things. So one of the nice things that we found out after training this model was that if you look at the representations of a demo relation, so you saw we had these two RNNs, and feed these through a fully connected layer, and if we look at the vector that comes out of that layer, and we down project that using something called tsne, and we color the dot with a color corresponding to the morphological relation here. We find out that all the dots from one particular relation ends up in the same space, in the same place, and they're really nicely separated, all of these. So there's one exception, and that's nouns from singular to plural, and the verbs from infinitive to third person singular presence, I think. And the thing is with these that they're almost always realized in English. This is just English. So they're almost always realized with adding an S or removing an S, which also means that the model doesn't benefit from distinguishing between these two. So you could say it's an error, but the model wasn't told to do these clusters, so there's no use of separating those two.